all right. This is the PSSA exam view practice test created by yours truly. I'm in the gym, so if it sounds very echoey, if I seem more athletic than usual, that would probably explain it. See how long it takes for someone to break in and just completely interrupt everything. So you're going to do the first 5 problems. No calculator. You may not use a calculator for any of these problems 1 through 5. So here we go. Problem 1. Write the decimal as a fraction or a mixed number. You can turn any decimal into, if it's a repeating decimal, you could turn any repeating decimal into a fraction by doing this. See how the 9-2 repeats? Put that 9-2 over 9-9. The amount of numbers that repeat, you're going to put that over the same amount of 9. So if it was like 0.925, then you would put 925 over 999. But this is 92 over 99. There was a 9 that went in front of it because of that guy right there. It doesn't simplify. None of these are divisible by 3, so you won't simplify it any further. You get that guy. Okay. I have 100 so far. Simplify the expression. Write your answer using a power. All right, so we have 8 bags. We have 8 bags, and in each bag we have 8 tens. So if I were to dump all of these bags out, each bag 8 tens would fall out. And some of you might be like, well, that's a lot of tens to count up. Sure, but if you have a power in parentheses to another power, the shortcut is just multiply them. Keep the 10 exactly the same. Multiply the 8 times the 8. You get 10 to the 64th, which is B. Okay? Okay. The old cow fart problem. A cow can produce up to 370,000 liters of methane and other gases in a year. Just imagine going to the store and you see like a bottle of soda that's like this big. It's usually about a liter. Imagine 370,000 of those. That's how much a cow can fart in a year. A lot of farts. What I have to do is I have to write that number out in scientific notation. So I'm going to rewrite that number. 3, that's a 3, 7, 0, 0, 0, 0. My dot belongs in between the 3 and the 7, otherwise it won't be in scientific notation. So you could be like, well, that excludes you then because you're too big and you're too small. So in order to get from this decimal to the other decimal, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So which one is it? Is it 3.7 times 10 to the 5th or 3.7 times 10 to the negative 5th? If your original number is a larger number, bigger than 10, then it's going to be a positive exponent. If the number you start out with is smaller than 1, then it's going to be a negative exponent. All right, let's move you down. Between what 2 consecutive integers is the square root of 76? Now, before you go like, how am I supposed to do this without a calculator? You should have your perfect squares memorized. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81. 81. So wait a minute. The square root of 78. I don't know what that is. But I do know that the square root of 81 is 9. And I also know that the square root of 64 is 8. So if 78 is in between 64 and 81, then the square root of 78 has to be in between the square root of 64 and the square root of 81, which means our answer is going to live in between 8, and 9. When I'm solving an equation, and the way I solve the equation is by taking the square root of both sides, what I can't forget is when I square root both sides, I have to include a positive or a negative. So this is a tricky problem. Our answer is going to be positive or negative square root of 16, and the square root of 16 is 4. Now, this only applies with taking the square root of both sides. If you take the cube root of both sides, you don't do this. But if you take the square root of both sides in order to solve an equation, you have to attach a positive or negative symbol. If you take a square root of both sides to solve an equation, you have to attach a positive or negative symbol. You have to, or you'll die.
All right, page 2 of this thing, different location, different outfit, same hairstyle. Lucky you. Lucky me. Carla plotted the points on the graph below to show how the amount she owes for tuition decreases as the number of tuition payments increases. The slope of the line segment joining these points is negative 2/3. All right, so you go down 2, you go right 3. I see it. But what does the slope mean? Well, in this case, the amount owed, and let me actually zoom up even further. So I'm just going to pretend that there's no multiple choice right now. This represents not 4, but $4,000 because it says the amount owed is in thousands. So this represents $4,000. These numbers are still the same. So basically what's happening is the amount of money as every payment is made, as more payments are made, the amount of money that I owe decreases. So it goes from 4,000 to 3.5 or 3.25,000, and then to 2 and something thousand. But it looks like, see, because this is a nice number at 4,000, I can't tell really what that number is. I can't tell really what that number is, but I can tell that that number is 2,000. So it goes down $2,000 every 3 payments, and that's why it's negative 2 over 3, because it decreases 2,000 every 3 payments. So what does the slope of the line represent? Each payment decreases the amount owed by 4,000. No, that's not it. Each payment decreases the amount owed by 66 cents. No, that's it. Not it. For every 3 payments, the amount owed decreases by 2,000. That's our guy. All right. That's our guy. And just to be safe, for every 2 payments, the amount owed decreases by 3,000. Close, but no cigar. That was 6. So let's bump over to 7. 7, find the volume, round to the nearest tenth. So for 7, what we're dealing with is what's called a composite solid. We have 2 shapes. The obvious shape is a cylinder. Oof. Cylinder. The not obvious shape is not a sphere, but a half of a sphere. I'm going to find the volume of both of these shapes. My handwriting is awful. I'm going to find the volume of both of these shapes, add them together, and that's going to give me my total volume. The volume of a cylinder is going to be V equals pi r squared h. I have the height of my cylinder. What I don't have is the radius, because instead I have the diameter. Well, I don't want the diameter, I want the radius, and the radius is half the diameter, so the radius is going to be 6. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite out my formula as V equals pi 6 squared, and the height is right there at 26. So I'm going to use my old calculator. Pi is second, and then the little caret button. And I am going to use pi, even though maybe I should use 3.14. I'm going to use pi, which is the second, and then this little caret-looking button. 6 squared. What am I missing? 26. All right, so that's what it looks like. Bada bing. It's backwards for me. I don't know if it's backwards for you. This number gives me 2940.53. 2,940.53, 53 rounded down. Inches cubed. Now, the half sphere. The formula for a regular sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. But with the half sphere, all I'm going to do is just multiply half to it. Simple. So my radius is 6, so it's going to be 4. And again, if you're like, no, the radius of the cylinder is 6. Move that up a little bit, please. Thank you. And there's my half sphere with a radius of 6. So the volume is 4/3 pi 6 cubed times a half. When you're using these types of calculators, your 4/3 is going to look like something divided by something else, and I like to put it in parentheses just because. See the 4/3 in parentheses? And then pi, again, is second, and then the little caret button here. Okay. 6 parentheses. Cubed is math 3, but there's also a cubed button, or you could use the little caret third. And then I'm going to multiply it times a half, which is 1 divided by 2. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff there. Enter. And that's 452.39. I'll round it up. 452.39. Take these two numbers and add them together. And I get 3,392.9. There you have it. B. Okay? Tricky. Find the solution to a system of equations using to the following system of equations. I'm going to do what's called back solving for this one. Since it's multiple choice, I'm going to do back solving. What's back solving? You guess an answer, you plug it in, you see if it works. So I am going to guess C and see if C works. So this is what I'm going to do. C is 0, 3. So I'm going to write out 0, 3 again, where I have a little bit more space. I'm going to call 0x and 3y, because it's always going to be xy, just like the alphabet. And I'm going to plug that into the x and the y into this equation. So 4 times 0 plus 2 times 3 equals negative 10. All right, well, let's type out what 4 times 0 plus 2 times 3 is. 4 times 0 plus 2 times 3. Okay, there it is, me typing it in. Enter, and I get 6. Does 6 equal negative 10? No. Which means, no, it's not you, C. I see that it's not C. So it's not C because these guys don't answer. So let's try something different. Let's try D. So I have the space. D, I'm going to label U X, and I'm going to label U Y. So I'm going to rewrite that equation. 4 times negative 5 plus 2 times y has to equal negative 10. Negative 10. So 4 times negative 5 plus 2 times 5. Oh, is negative 10. Now, should I just give up and say, that's the answer? No, 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 no. You have to do both equations. Otherwise, you can never be too sure. So x is negative 5 plus 2 times regular 5 has to equal 5. So I have negative 5 plus 2 times regular 5. I get 5. I want 5. It worked for both equations, which means D is my answer. So again, your strategy, if you're going to just plug answers and see if it works, is to make sure it works for both. Pick a point, any point, label it X, Y, plug them in, and see what you get. All right, third page. The town, oh, by the way, I'm in a different location again. You really can't see my face that well. Oh, that's no good. You need the moneymaker. All right. I'm in the stairwell in Stewart, doing more math problems, trying to get comfy. Town library is having used book sale. The graph below can be used to find the total cost Y to buy X books. The total cost includes the admission fee. Fun. What is the equation of the line below? So, fun fact about this whole paragraph, useless. I don't need it at all. So let's just cross it out. Let's just cross that puppy out. Ooh, highlighter. Don't need that. All right. What is the equation of the line shown? Well, the way you find equations is y equals mx plus b. Now let me zoom up because that looks a little sloppy. Looks a little sloppy. So the m in y equals mx plus b stands for your slope. And your slope is either going to be found by doing rise over run if you have the graph, or the slope formula if you have 2 points. I have the graph, so my slope is going to be up 1, 2 over 1, 2. So my slope, m, is going to be up 2 over 2, which is just 1. The b here stands for the y-intercept. The y-intercept. That's where your line crosses the y-axis. Here's the y-axis. There it is. It crosses at 4, so my y-intercept is going to be 4. So the equation that I'm going to use is going to be y equals 1x plus 4. Well, I don't need that 1 there. So let's just take that old hand and say goodbye. So my final answer is going to be y equals x plus 4. There it is. Bada bing. Easy. Easy. The next one's not so bad either if I remember it. We need the statement that's be very, very, very careful. The statement's that's not true. So the vertices of a triangle are 8, negative 24, 8, negative 8, and 16, negative 8, and is dilated by a scale factor of 1/4. Now, when you dilate something, what you do is you take that scale factor and you multiply it to every single point that you have here. So A, which is 8, negative 24, is going to be multiplied by 1/4. When you multiply by 1/4, that's the same thing as dividing by 4. So A prime is going to be 2, negative 6. B prime is going to be 2, negative 2. And C prime is going to be 4, negative 2. All right, so let's see which one of these is not true. So I'm going to cross out, I need the lie here, which is hard. You have to remember that. I need the lie. This shape will get smaller. Well, that's true. So I don't want A. 4, negative 1 is an image coordinate. No, it won't be. So that's my answer. How about that? 2, negative 2 would be B prime. Yeah, that was true. And 2, negative 6 is an image coordinate. Yeah, that was true too. That was A. Okay? Those not true problems are tricky. Find the distance between the points in the coordinate grid below. So this is what I'm going to do. You could use what's called the distance formula, but that is an absolute nightmare. So this is what I'm going to do. I have a straight line, and I'm going to turn that into a right triangle. So by turning it into a right triangle, what I'm looking for is the longest side. This black line is going to be the longest side in a right triangle. So I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So it doesn't matter what my a and what my b is as long as the longest side is c. So how long is a and how long is b here? Well, let's count it out. A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. So a is 5. And b is going to be 1, 2, 3 blocks. B is 3. So I'm going to have 5 squared plus 3 squared is going to equal c squared. 5 squared is 25. 3 squared is 9. And that's going to equal c squared. 25 plus 9 is 34. And that's going to equal c squared. Now, the careful thing is c all by itself? No. How do you get rid of the square that's floating there? How do you get rid of that square right there? Square root both sides. Now, what we saw in one of the very first problems in this thing is that when you square root both sides, you usually attach a positive or a negative. But you don't do that for Pythagorean theorem because there's no such thing as negative answers. So my answer is going to be the square root of 34, which is going to be 5 point something, but this very test doesn't ask you to keep going. It just calls it the square root of 34. Bada bing. Bada bing. All right, fourth page, problem 12. The graph below shows the linear relationship between the number of game tickets X and the total cost Y to attend a school fair. What is the slope of the line? So I'm going to zoom up really close. This is different from the one on the last slide because that one asks us to find the equation. Now I'm just finding the slope. We have to be very, 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 very careful. It gives me 2 points. But that point right there scares me because it's floating in the middle of a grid. So I'm actually going to change you don't have to do this, but I'm going to switch to that point here. Now, slope is, if you have the graph, slope is rise over run. Now look closely. Rise means going up. So if I were to go up a block here, am I going up 1? No. Every block moving up is 2. So my rise to get from that red dot to this red dot, that one right there, is going to be up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So my rise is 10. All right, again, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. When I run, do I go by 2s? Nope, I actually go by 1s. Tricky. So my run is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 10 over 8. Now, I don't see 10 over 8 as an option. So what I can do is go to my calculator, which I left in my classroom, and do 10 divided by 8, which is the same as 1.25. All right. What is the value of W in the equation below when Z equals 4? So what it wants me to do is replace Z with 4 and then find W. So W is going to equal 12. Replace Z with parentheses 4. That's a parentheses. Parentheses 4 minus 9.7. PEMDAS says do multiplication before subtract. So that becomes 48. So I have 48 minus 9.7, which is going to be 38.3. Okay. This one I'm going to regret not having a calculator for. I could see it. All right, I lost internet for a second there, so because I'm in a stairwell, so I'm going to try to do 14 again. I got halfway through and it ran out on me. All right, so this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a cylinder. So let's write down the formula for cylinder quick. V equals pi r squared h. Now, I'm not trying to find the volume because I'm given the volume. So I know that this is going to be V. What am I trying to find? H. So do I know my R? Kind of. What I know is my diameter is 16. That's my diameter. I care about my radius, which is half of that. All right, so I don't care about 18. I care about my radius, which is half of that. So I'm going to rewrite what I have and plug in what I know. I'm going to rewrite this guy out. And instead of V, I'm going to plug in 3,306. And instead of R, I'm going to plug in 9. So I'm rewriting it out. 3,306 equals pi times 9 squared h. Now I have two numbers, including a square, right next to each other that I can figure out. So I'm actually going to use an app on my phone that's very, 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 very similar to the TI-84 Pluses. It's called, what's it called? G Calculator. I think it's free. Might be $5. I don't remember. But I'm going to do pi times 9 squared because they're right next to each other. So pi was the second caret button. So there's the caret button right there. Pi was second caret button. Parentheses, 9, close parentheses, squared, enter. And when I do that, I get 254.5. So 3,306 equals 254.5 H. Is H all by itself yet? No, but close. And we only have one more step. So I'm going to divide both sides by 254.5. I'm dividing both sides by that because I have that multiply the h, and the way you get rid of a multiply is by dividing both sides by 254.5. All right. So 3,306 divided by 254.5. Hit enter. And I get 12.99. So H is equal to 12.99. Well, what do you think 12.99 is here? A little 13. A little baby 13. All right. Backwards. Usually you're being asked to find the volume. Now we're being asked to take the volume and find something else. All right. Write your answer in standard form. There are 1.0 times 10 to the 5th centimeters in 1 kilometer. How many centimeters are there in 4.6 kilometers? So we're going to multiply these guys together. So I'm actually going to do it this way. I'm going to just pretend that we're supposed to put it in scientific notation. I have 1.0 times 10 to the 5th. All right, I'll put that in parentheses because they're grouped together. And I'm going to multiply 4.6. Well, 10.5 is kind of all on its own. But what I can do is I can multiply 1 to 4.6. And that gets me, let me see, 1 times anything is, oh yeah, anything. So 4.6 times, and then that 10 to the 5th is kind of just left over. Now I look at this and say, oh yeah, it says standard notation. So that 10 to the 5th is going to make my 4.6 bigger. So I'm going to rewrite out 4.6, and it's going to be bigger by going to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Fill in 1, 2, 3, 4 circles. Let's get rid of those bumps and get rid of that dot. And it's 460,000, which is right there. This problem over the years has sparked a lot of debate. Lena makes home deliveries of groceries for a supermarket. Her only stops after she leaves the supermarket are at traffic lights and the homes where she makes the deliveries. The graph shows her distance from the store to her first trip for the day. What was the greatest possible number of stops she made at traffic lights? So this is what I'm thinking. Okay. And again, maybe I'm wrong in thinking this. Maybe this is one of those trick problems where whoever made this, wherever I stole this problem from, they didn't think it through, but this is what I'm thinking. Okay. Store. That's the store. Store. She's driving and she stops right there. Any flat line means she's not moving. So she stops there, she stops there, she stops there, she stops there, and now she's back at the store. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, okay, 4 stops. I got you, 4 stops. But I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. And here's why I'm going to say no. If she's making home deliveries, then that's not a stop sign. That's a home. So I'm going to say 3 on this one. And a lot of people might disagree with me, but I feel pretty good thinking that. I feel pretty good saying 3. So we're going to go with 3. Which statement is true? All right, so we have women and men, their preferred programs. Here's the totals right here. Here's the totals right here. So I could say 16 women like dance, and 6 women like sports, and 10 men like sports, and 8 men like movies, and 16 total people like sports. And there were 20 total men interviewed, whatever. Which statement is true? Is true. Women seem to prefer dancing more than men. Yes, because 16 women chose dancing and only 2 men. So I'm going to say, yeah, that seems pretty true. But I'm paranoid, so let me check the others. Sports is the most popular program. Well, no. Dance is the most popular program. Now, you might say, well, amongst men, sports is, but that's not what the question is. It's just saying sports is the most popular program. So I look at the totals. 18 total people like dance, 16 total people like sports, and 16 total people like movies. So I'm going to say no on B. Of the people surveyed, 20% were men. Well, there were 15 people surveyed. 20 of them were men. But 20 out of 50 is not 20%. 20 out of 50 is the same as 40 out of 50. Now, percent literally means out of 100. So percent means 40%. So this is not true because of the people surveyed, 40% were men. There were more sports fans than movie fans. Nope, there's the same amount of sports fans. So my inkling of saying that it was A was right. Just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure. What equation models the data in the table if D equals numbers of days and C equals cost? I'm going to use a thing in my calculator called linreg. I want to make sure I can do that here. I think I can, so I'm gonna. Yep. Okay. All right. So this is how you use linreg. You hit the first button you hit is stat. Okay. Stat is somewhere in the middle of your graphing calculator. Again, it's hard to see. So where is it? 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 It's just somewhere in the middle there, stat. Okay. I'm going to go to edit and I have points that I'm going to put in L1. Under L1, I'm going to put in 2, 3, 5, 6. So I'm going to hit 2, enter, 3, enter, 5, enter, 6, enter. Under L2, I'm going to type out 48, enter, 72, enter, 120, enter, and 144, enter. So I know what you're looking at right here is my phone, but it would look exactly the same in a regular old TI-84 graphing calculator. Now, the way I get out of this is I hit second mode. There it is right there. Second mode quits. Okay. I'm going to go to stat again. Go to the thing that says calc, which is the second option, and go down to 4, which is linreg. Usually you hit enter either once or a bunch of times, and by doing that, it gives me, well, y equals ax plus b, and a is 24 and b is 0. So if y equals ax plus b and a is 24, then y equals 24x plus 0 is plus 0. All right, let's write down my answer. Oh no. My x was my L1. My y was my cost. Your x is always on the left, your y is always on the right. But I'm not using x and y, I'm using d and c. So I'm going to replace x with d, and I'm going to replace y with c. So y becomes c, and 24 becomes d. X becomes d, so 24d. And there you have it. Tricky. Tricky again. All right, so which statement is not true? So they're going to start this out by giving me a bunch of options. So I need the lie. So what I'm going to do is go through my options. 4 is a possible solution. I don't know. You could start the problem by subtracting 7x from both sides. Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, that's not what I want. I want the lie. So I can start the problem off by subtracting 7x from both sides. That's great. If the left side was replaced with a y, then the slope of the equation would be 7. So if this is gone, and that's y, then the slope would be 7. That's true. So I don't want that. There's an infinite amount of solutions. Well, I don't know. Actually, I do know. But let's figure out the problem. Let's figure out the answer. Let's do the thing actually down here. I'm going to rewrite it. 4.5x plus 4 equals 7x minus 6. Since it said 7, I could start by subtracting 7x from both sides. That's actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. Boom. That gives me negative 2.5x plus 4 equals negative 6. Is x all by itself? No. What's in the way? Well, I have a negative 2.5 being multiplied and a positive 4 just floating around. Always get rid of the guy that's just floating around. So let's subtract 4 from both sides, cross u out. Now I have negative 2.5 equals negative 10. Oh, 2.5x. Ooh. Is x all by itself? No. What's in the way? Negative 2.5 is being multiplied to x. So I'm going to do the opposite, which is divide negative 2.5 from both sides. And negative 10 divided by negative 2.5 is 4. I knew that right away. Well, at least this. I knew that this is the lie. Oopsies. I knew that this was the lie. Now, since 4 is a possible solution, I'm crossing it out because I want the one that's not true. I knew right away that that's not an infinite amount of solutions because if my x's wouldn't go away. It's an infinite amount of solutions if the number of x's you have on the left is the same as the number of x's that you have on the right, and that's not what I have. So I knew D was the lie. But I just wanted to go through the whole thing anyway because it's good practice. Find the slope of the line. Looking at this graph, I don't see any funny business. So this is just going to be rise over run. No funny business. Rise over run. I don't see the graph. The graph is normal, so I could just go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is 4. And my run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's that one. Remember what I said? That if I know how many... Well, let's just solve the problem. Let's just solve it. 8D, 2D, 3D on the left is 13D. Minus 6 equals 2D. I'm going to subtract 13D from both sides. So that's negative 6 equals negative 11D. Divide both sides by negative 11. And D equals 6 over 11. Does that mean my answer is 6 over 11? Sure. Does that mean that this answer is 6 over 11? No, because it's not asking me, what's your answer? It's asking me how many answers I have, and I have one, and that one answer is 6 over 11. Trick problem. Tricky, 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 tricky. All right, so for the 18th time in this video, different location. Now I'm using a webcam, so that's exciting. And if you're wondering, well, why? Why use a webcam? Well, we are going to rotate a shape. And it's so much easier to show you that process on a piece of paper and a webcam than on a regular old touchscreen computer, which is what I do all the time. So here we go. We've got our first open-ended problem, and it requires us taking a shape and doing not one, but two translations to it, transformations to it. On the same coordinate plane, rotate the triangle 180 degrees about the origin, then translate the triangle 3 units right and 2 units up. So the first thing that we're going to do is rotate it 180 degrees. And if you're wondering, well, is it clockwise or counterclockwise? If it's 180, doesn't matter. Why? Because if you go clockwise, you spin it upside down. And if you go clockwise, you spin it upside down. So let's do that. Let's spin it upside down. Now, when you rotate it, this is what you do. You write down the name of the coordinates as you currently see them. So if you want to take some scrap paper, if you just want to write it here, that's fine. I'm just going to write it here, and I'm going to write it upside down because why the heck not? So I'm going to write down the coordinates as I see them. What does that mean? You start at your origin, and in order to get to A, you go left 1, down 1. So left 1, down 1's negative 1, negative 1. B prime is going to be left 1, down 1, 2. So B prime is left 1, down 2, negative 1, negative 2. C prime, the way I get there is left 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1. So left 4, down 1 is negative 4, negative 1. I take my shape and I take it back, spin it back to where it was, and I draw those coordinates out. All right, so A prime was negative 1, negative 1. So right there, that's my A prime. B prime was negative 1, negative 2. So there it is, B prime. And then C prime was -4, -1. So there it is, C prime. Boom, boom, boom. That was step 1. Step 2 says, now take that shape and move it 3 units right and 2 units up. So I do that 1 point at a time. So let's start out with A, 3 units right, 1, 2, 3, and 2 units up, 1, 2. And that's going to be a double prime because I moved it again. Okay. B is going to be 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2. So B double prime is going to live there. And C is going to be 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2. And that's C double prime. And let's draw that out. And there's a kitty cat outside my window. You can hear him. So that's the picture. Done. Looks good to me. What are the coordinates of A, B, C? Well, A prime, B prime, C prime. I already wrote it. So A prime was -1, -1. B prime was -1, -2. And C prime was -4, -1. So I already did that part. Easy. What was not easy is the fact that I did not leave myself a whole lot of space to answer these. A double prime. How do I get to A double prime? Go to my origin, and I get there by going right 2, up 1, right 2, up 1. It's 2, 1. B double prime. I get there by going right 2, don't move, so that's 2, 0. And C double prime, I get there by going left 1, up 1, -1, +1. Okay. Is the original shape congruent to the final image? Yes, it is. How do I know that without explaining too much? Easy. Because the shape will not change sides in a rotation or transformation. Transformation. It's translation. Translation. Translation is when you move it, which means the shape will not change size. Rotation means you spin it around, which means the shape will not change size. The only time it changes size is if you dilate it, and we didn't dilate it here. Now, we did a dilation problem earlier in this packet, but we didn't do one here. Okay? First open-ended, complete. Well, we've reached the end. We've reached the end of this packet. Again, different location, different fit, wearing my Pinkie Pie shirt and my glasses today. So lots of changes, so many changes. But what we don't have that's any different is the fact that it's an open-ended. We've seen open-endeds. We just did. This is called a two. There's a cat at my window. You want to come in? Oh, this is exciting. For the first time ever, a kitty cat's going to join us. He's outside and he wants to come in. Come on in, buddy. You got a leaf on your forehead. All right. Come on in. You'll see him jump in the background. There he is. Welcome, sir. Okay. You randomly survey students about their involvement in school sports and the school music program. The two-way table shows the results. So far what we see is 4 sets of information. There are people who are involved or not involved in sports. There are people who are involved or not involved in the music program. There he goes. Thanks for joining me. So we see 62 people are involved in sports and the music program. We see that 34 people are involved in music but not involved in sports. We see that 41 people are involved in sports but not involved in music. And we see that 27 are involved in neither. Fill in the marginal frequencies for the survey. What does that mean? That just means find the totals. So the way you find the totals, and I like totals, is you add the rows and the columns. So the total people who are involved in the music program is 62 plus 34, which is 96. 96. The total people who are not involved in the music program will be 41 and 27, and that's 68. Buddy, make a choice. The total people who were involved in sports was 62 plus 41, which is 103. And the total number of people who are not involved in sports is 34 plus 27, which is 61. Now, the grand total is found by, you could either add the 62 plus 6, I'm sorry, the 96 plus 68 here, or you can add the 103 and the 61 here. Either way, you're going to get 164. Either way, you're going to get 164. So that's how many total people were surveyed. And again, by finding the marginal frequencies, we found out that 103 people are involved in sports, or 68 people are not involved in the music program, and it has nothing to do with the other thing, so on and so forth. How many students are involved in the school music program? So involved in the school music program is this guy, and not school sports. So that's this guy. So we're going to match that with that, and we get 34 students. Okay? Pretty simple problem. Next one, not so much. What percent of students are involved in both? All right, so what we need to do when you're finding out a percent is you need to find out how many you want out of, divided by, everybody. So it's what I want out of everybody. God bless you. So my everybody is 164. So I'm dividing what I want out of everybody. My everybody was 164. The percent of students are involved in both. So the involved in both category is going to have me going to music program involved, sports program involved, and finding out that number, and that number is 62. So it's going to be 62 divided by 64. Now let's use a magic calculator and find out. I'm just going to use a regular old calculator, nothing fancy. Or do I want to use the same calculator that I've been using? Why not? Why not be consistent? G calculator. 62 divided by 164 equals 0.378. So we'll put 0.378. Now, is that my final answer? No, because in order to turn a decimal into a percent, you have to multiply that number by 100. And so our final answer is going to be 37.8% of people were involved in both. Out of everyone. Out of everyone. All right, so this, boys and girls, concludes Mr. Parrige's self-made PSSA test. It's supposed to look like the PSSA's, so to speak. Not exact, but looks similar enough where it should be good review. All right. Bye.